Welcome to the Wellness in Asheville podcast, where we shine a light on the people, practices, and places that make this city one of the most inspiring wellness communities in the country. I'm your host, Travis Richardson, founder of Be Well Asheville, your local news source for health, wellness, and community events. All right, so today's guest is someone who is doing something both rare and radical, and he's doing it right here in our community. He's a physician who looked at the way primary care actually works in America and decided it was fundamentally broken and built something completely different. We're talking about a doctor who started a clinic that gives patients time, real time, deep relationships, root cause conversations, and best of all, I am a patient. In this episode, we will talk a lot about why things are broken in healthcare and the progress being made, as well as the new models being used to fix it. Long story short, reduce or remove insurance when possible. Dr. Chad Krisel is a board-certified family physician and the co-founder of Integrative Family Medicine of Asheville, an integrative primary care clinic focused on personalized, prevention-centered healthcare. He blends evidence-based medicine with lifestyle, nutrition, and root cause approaches to help patients move beyond symptom management and toward long-term vitality. Dr. Chad is passionate about rehumanizing medicine, creating the time and space for deep relationships, meaningful conversations, and truly individualized care. Let's jump right in. Okay, on the show today, really excited because we have Dr. Chad Krisel with Integrative Family Medicine. And actually, for me, it's extra special because I'm also a patient. So I have quite a bit of interest here in you, Dr. Chad. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited about what you're doing and bringing to the Asheville community. This is great.
Yeah, thanks. Well, as you know, this is we're discussing longevity today, and kind of also the intersection between the model that you have that you practice at the clinic there, being direct primary care, and how that intersects with longevity. And then we'll cover some other topics too. But before we do, just give us the quick version of how your life story, your path, and how you were a part of starting Integrative Family Medicine of Asheville.
Yeah, good question. Gosh, I guess it goes back to college. I was an environmental science major, and I was really interested in how we can make the world a better place. And as I got further into it, I realized, well, if people don't understand the connections between the choices that they're making and how that manifests in their own health and well-being, then how can we expect folks to extend their sense of self to the environment and others around them? And so that got me interested in medicine. And the more I dove in, the more it just became a deeper and deeper interest. And went to undergrad at University of Florida, went to medical school at Florida State University. And in medical school, I was seeking out community with folks who were like-minded in terms of taking a more holistic perspective on health and healing. And I ended up finding that community more nationally than locally, and became very involved in a group called the American Medical Students Association, and in particular, a subset of that called HUMED, which stood for Humanistic Medicine. And got deeply involved with that, ended up joining the national leadership, and I was a part of creating national retreats for medical students to join with physician mentors. And we did retreats out in Santa Cruz, California, and in North Florida, and really learning as very young, soon-to-be physicians from folks who are walking the talk, and seeing that there is something outside of the traditional kind of sick care system that the medical insurance industrial complex is. And so that was really illuminating and inspiring for me. And I actually met my my business and medical partner, Brian Lewis, in that group called Humanistic Medicine. And we ended up doing residence here in Asheville at Mayhec.
That sounds really interesting. I've never heard of this.
And I think it goes by a different name now, but when I was in medical school and a part of AMSA, which is the American Medical Students Association, that's the name it was a group of young medical students who were interested in bringing humanism and humanity into medicine. And that's how they came up with that word. So that was a group that brought all of us young hippie soon-to-be doctors together so that we could have community with each other. And as one of my mentors in life said, get it together. And so doing things in isolation is much harder than doing it in community. And so that group was really about coming together in community to try to figure out how we can pave a better way, at least through medical school initially, and making it through that crazy time period. Brian and I, we went to the same residency, and then when residency was concluding, we were trying to figure out, okay, how can we bring this holistic, humanistic medicine to our community here in Asheville? And it was crystal clear that we could not do that under the insurance model, which I can talk at length about as to why that does not support a productive physician-patient relationship. And so we really just some good fortune and luck, we found ourselves at a conference where we heard about this idea of membership-based healthcare, which is really a capitated, a form of capitated healthcare where patients are paying the same amount no matter what. So it reduces or even eliminates the incentive of trying to do more and make care more expensive, even at the expense of patients' health, which is really what ends up happening in insurance-based medicine, fee-for-service type medicine. From the late and great Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's life partner at Berkshire Hathaway, he had this great quote. He had lots of great quotes, but one of his quotes was, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome." And in a healthcare system where literally, as if care is made more expensive, the doctors are paid more money and the hospital systems and medical systems make more money. The incentive needs to be, we all took the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm. And if the incentive is, for a monetary gain is to make the care more expensive, then that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's why our country's healthcare system is the most expensive in the entire world. Last I checked, at least 7 to 8 times greater than the next most expensive healthcare system in the world. Yet we rank, according to the WHO, something like 37th worldwide in the level of healthcare that we provide. And, patients, they want to get better. Doctors, they want to help patients get better. But if the business is not in the same boat as the patient and the doctor, then it's just not going to happen. And, a dirty little secret in healthcare that no one talks about, but that's widespread and kind of the standard of care everywhere, is that doctors are incentivized with bonuses or even their base pay on something called RVUs, which stands for relative value units. And what that means is for everything that's done in the healthcare system, there's an assignment of this unit called an RVU associated with it. And what that means, boots on the ground, is I'm working at the ER or I'm working in a family medicine clinic or urgent care or wherever it is. And they tell you at the end of each month, okay, you billed this many RVUs, so you get this amount of money. But what that means is that if you do more x-rays, more procedures, more laboratory tests, then you get more RVUs and you get thousands more dollars. And so Unfortunately, doing more tests and more procedures oftentimes leads to patient harm. I mean, there's some studies showing that the number one cause of death in the United States is iatrogenic causes of death. And scratch that, I might have that stat wrong. That might be I believe the stat is the third leading cause of death is iatrogenic. Iatrogenic meaning physician or system caused from hospital acquired infections. Routine procedure, patient went in for whatever, fill in the blank procedure, and it went okay, but then they got a hospital acquired infection and then they die of that infection. Or the procedure's done on the wrong part of the body. Or giving a medication that the pharmaceutical representative was just, breathing down my neck that I need to prescribe this for every patient with fill in the blank. And you prescribe this brand new medication, they have a side effect from the medication.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so much systemic illness in our provision of healthcare in this country that, from a primary care perspective, Brian and I were thinking, okay, how can we insulate ourselves from that or even extricate ourselves from that altogether? And we came upon this idea. It wasn't really proven yet. We knew of one person doing it. Maybe there were 5 to 10 across the country doing this idea of patient pays an affordable monthly amount, and then we're able to provide them as much primary care as they need throughout the year. And if you think about where the incentive is there, our medical system at Integrative Family Medicine or at any direct primary care, since we started this 15 years ago, this model has grown like wildfire, and there's many thousands of practices around the country. And now it has this name, direct primary care. Under this model, patients are paying the same amount, whether they're coming in 150 times or they're coming in 10 times. They're paying the same amount whether they're very sick or very healthy. And if you think about it, the medical system itself is highly incentivized to try and promote and actualize the health of their patient being as optimal as possible. Because, if a patient comes in on day one and I worked really hard and I help them get healthy and I'm continuing to have regular touch points in their life, and we're working with our health coach to help them achieve their optimal health, then the business actually does better. And we're very transparent about that. So then what that creates is this wonderful triad where the patient wants to be as healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The doctors want the patients to be as healthy as possible. And the business also wants the patients to be as healthy as possible. And so there's no incentive, there's no misalignment. And then we can be fully transparent with our patients that, yes, we do sell supplements in our office, but we're not making money off of them. We donate the proceeds. We mark them up just a little bit to make sure we don't lose money. Sometimes we do. Last year, we actually literally lost money after selling, I think, $20,000 worth of supplements because we intentionally don't want to mark them up more than we need to. But we mark them up just a little bit, and then we donate the profits to a nonprofit each month. And similar with medications, we're not making any money off of medications that we're prescribing. Or laboratory tests, we have extremely nominal fees. For like basic blood tests that we're doing all the time, we charge $5 per blood test. The same exact blood test in an ER would cost $400. Some of our clients were able to save many, many thousands of dollars just on labs alone.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, quick break before we jump back in. If you're enjoying this conversation and want to go deeper, I want to give you something. We put together a free download with exclusive discounts from all of our season 1 wellness experts. Places like Drip Sauna, Asheville Salt Cave, Still Point Wellness, and lots of others. Real discounts from real local practitioners and here in Asheville, completely free just for being a listener. And here's the thing. Once you grab it, you are going to get to be first to know about some pretty exciting things that we have coming up, including a brand new longevity course we are building specifically for this community. And I think you're just going to love it. Just head over to bewellasheville.com/podcast. Check this episode's show notes, and inside will be a link to grab your discounts. Now let's get back to the conversation. Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
I want to step in real quick because I would just say from my experience, the fundamental difference as a consumer of your services is that, for me, I feel like when I go in or if I have a consult online or phone call with a coach, I've always felt like that there's this, like, I'm going to go get healthier. Like, I'm going there to get healthy. Like, there's this fundamental difference. Whereas if I go to a traditional doctor, it's like, oh man, something's really wrong with me, and I'm there's no idea of like I'm going there to like get healthy, if that makes any sense. It's the only way I can
yeah,
describe it. It's just like, and you go in the, if you go to your clinic and you're sitting and you're seeing the person next to you, and you're looking around and you're seeing books about health, you're seeing signs of wellness around you, and you think. And there's just this feeling. I don't know if it's an energetic feeling, but for me, there's this feeling is that we're in a place where they're trying to actually make us healthy here, like that they're really are trying to do that. That's what they number one want to do. That's what it feels like when I'm there. And when you go to a traditional doctor's office, it is often the feeling of we're here just to do our job. We just want to get you pretty much in and out with a standard protocol as quickly as we can. And it doesn't feel like there's this interest in making me actually a healthier, happier human being. And I think that is now, even if you keep the procedures the same, let's say your clinic and some other clinic, and you're offering procedurally the same things. To me, as a consumer, I'm not going for a procedure. I'm going because I want to know that somebody cares about me enough to want to help me get healthier and better. And I just wanted to say that's my experience, and I'm pretty passionate about the feeling that a doctor or a healthcare provider can instill in a patient so that when they walk out of there, they feel like that's what they want to go home and go do. They want to go home and go do the thing that you've encouraged them to go try out, whether it's a diet or a supplement or whatever it might be. And I feel like that the outcomes have to be much, much better in that way. And the adherence to a protocol would be much way better in the model that you're providing.
Mm. That's incredibly meaningful for me to hear, because ultimately everything I just mentioned is the setup for what we're passionate about, which is providing authentic human connection in the healthcare that we're providing. Authentic relationships where we're sitting down, looking people in the eye, having a heartfelt connection with people that we don't have to worry about meeting a 7-minute time limit, right? We can get in there and we have the time to get into the really deep stuff that's most important and most impactful toward patients achieving their health goals and their optimal health outcomes. And yeah, it almost brings tears to my eyes, honestly, hearing stories like that and having the felt sense that we're making a meaningful difference in our patients' lives, because that's ultimately what we're going after. And one person kept out of the hospital, one person's heart attack that never happened, one person coming through the other side of depression. Just one of those makes it all worth it. And we have the luxury and the good fortune to have so many of these experiences over and over again, each day, each week, and month and year. So, and it's also, it's exciting to see that this model that we helped to pioneer almost by happenstance has grown such that there's some stats showing 10% of family physicians are now practicing under this model.
Wow.
And some are going as far as to say that this will be the model that all primary care is provided through in due time, because the other model is it's not working, it's impractical, it's producing poor health outcomes, it's insolvent.
Can you talk?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that here too? I want to understand why the model itself lends itself to better health outcomes.
Yeah.
Not the interventions or the techniques, but the model. I'm curious
Yeah.
about.
Well, I mean, one reason is what I've already mentioned with, there's just hands down more iatrogenic causes of harm when you only have 7 minutes with a patient. Study after study has shown the less time a doctor has with their patient, the more likely the patient is to get a referral, the more likely the patient is to get a prescription, the more likely that something is getting done that was really a result of lack of time. Um, I mean, big hospital systems are literally buying up primary care for the sole reason, and many of these primary carers, they are literally insolvent. Like actually in the market, they would go out of business. But the hospital systems buy them up because they see them as a loss leader, that they become a referral machine so that fill in the blankologist gets more patients, right? So the cardiologist get more patients, and the orthopedist and the dermatologist and urologists, et cetera, much of which we can handle under primary care. Not to say that we don't work with cardiologists and urologists. We have wonderful relationships with the specialists in our community. And we're very lucky to have a great set of physicians and medical expertise in our community. And we we don't have to send out those referrals as much. So that's one big reason that you have better health outcomes. The other is that there's this great statistic from the CDC or really sad statistic from the CDC, that 85% of healthcare dollars in our country are spent on medical conditions that are preventable and or reversible if caught early enough. Right?
Holy cow! 85% goes to things that we could be doing to where we wouldn't have to spend that much money. That's an incredible amount of money. Like it's
incredible,
shocking.
And keeping in mind, we spend 7 times more than the next most expensive healthcare system in the world, and yeah, I mean, it really is overwhelming to even think about. And so if these conditions are preventable or reversible, so why aren't we doing that? And I believe it boils down to the 7-minute office visit, that if we have time to sit with our patients, we're working in a system that is set up to promote their health, and we can then use our innovation and creativity to come up with ways that are going to work for patients to fit into their lives and their unique situations so that they can get to the outcome that they're wanting, the physician's wanting, and now ideally the system wants as well.
Right.
And so like in our clinic, initially we it was just us medical providers and the patients, and then it hit us, like a brick in the head that, wow, most of these conditions that we're talking about that are preventable and reversible are oftentimes products of poor lifestyle, right? Poor lifestyle decisions with we could talk about this for an hour all on its own, but from the food that we're eating, from the sedentary lifestyle that we're living, from the super high stress life that we're living, from the poor quality sleep, that we realize we have to figure out a system to really get underneath what we now consider the pillars to how we are approaching healthcare, which is the opposite of all of that. How do we optimize the food that we're eating, the movement that we're getting, the quality of sleep that we're getting, reduce stress in meaningful ways? And so in our, I want to say second or third year in practice, we decided at or I should say minimal extra charge to our patients, they get to see a health coach for, I think we charge $20 a session. Our employee clients pay $0.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I just want to say to the listeners, if you haven't had health coaching, you can pay, well, honestly, you can pay as much as you want to pay. There's not a lot of limit. I've seen that, and I've used the health coach. I forget her name, but it was
Ariana.
Yeah. And I felt it was very helpful. And sometimes you just need accountability from someone who knows your unique situation. And for the cost of that. And by the way, I want to say one more thing. Just this also kind of goes with your this is a general observation, and it also draws upon that story I had heard. And that is that the more we can personalize care for people and free the hands of our healthcare providers to do what they think is best and not be so corralled into particular protocols or systems of intervention, standards of care that are maybe the standard of care, but it might be 20 years outdated. And this is a problem because, for instance, there was a story I'd heard, and I don't remember the exact context, but the thing was that there was an observation that a population of people were not being helped in the way that they wanted to be helped, the way that they were. That was very effective. So I think it was a diabetic population, and the standard model, they were having really horrible outcomes. I guess blindness was rising like super fast. There's all these super costly metrics that they were seeing, right? So there was an experiment. They said, all right, well, let's just give you free reign as an experiment, and we're going to give you this amount of money and free reign to do what you think is best. Come up and let's see if you can change the situation of this diabetic population. And what they found was the most effective thing to do was, this is the craziest thing, was to pay for transportation to go see their doctor. That was the main hurdle in their health outcome, was that they found it challenging to figure out how to afford to get there. It was a big city,
Incredible.
urban population, and all of a sudden things started changing. And that would have never been done because in the standard model, health insurance doesn't reimburse you getting to your doctor. That's not part of a treatment. But that was the treatment. Actually, that was an intervention that was known. But right, and so that happened at a very local, hyper personalized level because the doctor had the money and the time to go spend how they knew best for their population. And anyway, it's a shout out to what y'all are doing. I'll let you continue on because this healthcare, the health coaching is like that.
My sister-in-law works for the American Cancer Society for their international work, and she does work exactly along that subject in Africa of getting people to get transportation is an example to be able to get their chemotherapy, and it makes a tremendous impact on their health outcomes. And so that sort of thing, applied across the country and across the world, it's creative solutions like that. Sometimes, Occam's razor, sometimes the simplest answer is the best answer. That we have to sometimes take a step back to see the forest from the trees.
Yeah, and I brought that up because offering health coaching at such a super low cost is in those same lines, is saying that will move the needle more than a lot than most things, in my opinion. That moves the needle quite a bit. That's a huge. That's a lever that you can pull that has a lot of strength behind it.
It's so true, and that's why we made it near zero cost, or as close to near zero cost as we could, because it's probably the most impactful thing we do, honestly, is if we can get folks to be working with the health coach. And sometimes it takes a little bit of arm wrestling to convince people to do it. But what I oftentimes describe is, I'm like, look, if you think the best athletes in the world, whether that's an Olympic athlete or world champion boxer or whatever it is, they all have a coach in their corner. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that, right? Mm-hmm. So are you telling me that you are, you're set apart from the most elite athletes in the world, that you don't need one?
Right. Yeah, one of the most successful people I know actually is a businesswoman who I took business coaching from and learned some things from her from that. And she told me that she herself has 4 coaches. Now, it's because she can afford to have 4 coaches, but she had a relationship coach, a business coach,
love it.
All these things. And I'm like, and you see her talking, but there's a reason why. It's like she's willing to say, I don't have all the answers and I'm coachable. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to get better at whatever it is. So that's
and so then we can, through health coaching and through unhurried meetings and connections with your medical provider, we can make this meaningful impact. And I mean, the data is super clear. Like, I know we were going to talk a little about VO2 max, right? And another way of describing that is in METs, which is technically stands for the metabolic equivalent of task, but it's essentially saying this much effort is equivalent to 1 unit of a MET, right? 1 unit of a MET is sitting quietly. Above, between 2, and I might be getting these brackets a little bit off, but between 2 and 5 is light exercise, and between 6 and 8 moderate exercise, and greater than, and so it goes like that. For every 1 MET that a person is able to achieve higher than they were previously able to achieve. And so for many people, that just means simply like if their normal life and their normal ability prior to working with a coach or a personal trainer is that they get winded from walking from their car into their house. And that's a reality for many people. If you can improve the cardiorespiratory fitness for that person such that now they can take a walk around the block without difficulty, then you have just decreased that person's chance of death by 13% for every 1 MET increase. So it's logarithmic. As you go up, increasing cardiorespiratory fitness has been shown in huge studies and published in the most prestigious journals to have a higher impact on a person's longevity than quitting smoking, than not having diabetes, than not having high blood pressure.
Yeah,
and of
I
course,
saw that same one. That's crazy to think, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I mean, just to underline and to highlight what you just said again for the listener out there. What was just said is that quitting, so having a peak level or a very high level of cardio fitness is, I hate to even say it, I won't say more important. That's not the right word. Is statistically a better predictor of your longevity than quitting smoking is the right way to say it.
Right.
But if you had to choose, so what's crazy to me is to think is that if I had to choose 2 things, which would be the stronger impact on my longevity, it would be to increase my cardio over quitting smoking, which is like,
That's
it
right.
blows your mind. But to
crazy.
say that out loud, you think to yourself, no way, that's not possible. But that is what we're saying here.
Yeah, and I have people in my personal life that they are elite athletes and they've exercised their whole life and they use tobacco, and that exercise piece is making a major impact on, at least to some degree, balancing out the risk of the tobacco.
I gotta say, yeah, and I remember this too. On there's a Blue Zones, Dan Buettner, I think his name is. They did the Blue Zones, where people live the longest spots in the world, and there was a episode on that where I believe it was Sardinia, and it was interesting. Now, when we're talking about these things, these are all, there's so many variables, right? So it's really hard to pinpoint a lot of these things, why they're happening. But with Sardinia, they were showing that the men, don't quote me on this, but the men, I think was outlived the women in this particular area in Sardinia, and the men smoked and the women didn't.
Interesting.
And it was, because you got 2 things there. First of all, women always outlive men. We all know that.
That's right.
That to be a thing. And certainly non-smokers outlive smokers. And we all know that to be a truth. Now, in this case, I want to say, and I can go back and fact check myself, make sure I'm accurate on it, is that they thought, though, it was that the men did a lot more walking and the terrain was really steep often. There was never any flat, and they were always walking up and down these hills. And I hope I'm not convoluting the story here, but there's some protective measure there that even despite that they were smoking and all this, that they were still often in better shape. So anyways, I will fact check myself, put that in the show notes, whether that's true or not.
one pearl I glean from that is, and to piggyback on what I was talking about a second ago, is that yes, the stat is that if you're in the upper quartile, so beyond the 75th percent or up, that's where you get that it's a greater protective benefit as compared to quitting tobacco. But having said that, for us mere mortals who are not necessarily in the upper quartile, for most folks, the biggest gains are really going to come from being sedentary to being non-sedentary. And yes, we can biohack and get super geeky into exercise physiology, and I'm admittedly an exercise addict to some degree.
Yeah,
But
me too.
for the vast majority of people, just going from non-sedentary to sedentary is going to make the most dramatic difference. And if they want to take it beyond that, which they might want to, because then you start to experience the just the runner's high and the euphoric feelings of being non-sedentary, and and you get to feeling like that, and you want more of it.
Yeah.
and,
And speaking of that, there's just being like lots of regular movement. I think office work. I mean, just being able to move during the day is such a huge, profound thing you can do. I also heard this really interesting thing. And there's an influencer, Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Her claim to fame is she's got this Found My Fitness website, and she's very influential,
prolific. Yeah.
One of the things I heard her say, I don't know if you have heard this study or seen this, but she was saying that in a recent study, they showed that for every a profound difference between just walking and vigorous activity. So they used to think that walking would be protective and is enough for most people, like we're built to walk. So there wasn't this gap between the difference between how good it is for you to walk versus vigorous exercise. And at least with cardioprotective effects, I believe she said that 1 minute of vigorous activity, you would have to get, it was something around like some ridiculous number of walking to get the same equivalent. It was like 90 minutes or something. It was a crazy amount of walking to achieve that same benefit. We're getting research. Part of this is I hear so many things, and I'm always like, what's the context? But there is a dramatic difference. And so the idea is, if you can at least get some bit of vigorous activity, it's very helpful. Even 1 minute is very helpful.
And I don't think that's untrue. I think that so much of the art of medicine, of what we are doing when we're in the room with patients, is trying to figure out who's sitting in front of me, right? I have some people who, no matter what I or the health coach does or says or encourages or begs, they're not doing any physical activity. And they come in for a condition, and I'm like, hey, well, you could very possibly avoid a medication if you do X, Y, and Z. And they say, I just want the medication, right?
Yeah.
So for that patient, the medication is going to be best, right? If the reality for this patient is that for whatever reason, there's 0% chance that they're going to make the changes, the medication is better than nothing. And for many patients, especially in a relatively active area like we live in Asheville, with lots of folks interested in movement, we also have tons of patients who are interested. Hey, how do I dial in what the exercise program that is going to give me the optimal chance that I'm going to be able to continue, backpacking or cycling when I'm 75 years old. And for them, we're going to be talking about vigorous physical activity. How often? Resistance training and the benefits of that unique to aerobic training, and even getting into moderate intensity aerobic training, such as zone 2, or vigorous intensity, such as high intensity interval training, and the unique benefits. And all of these different things do confer unique benefits. But 2 steps back from that is who's sitting in front of me, and what's the next increment of change that they are ready for. Because if you go 5 increments ahead of where that person is, then you've already lost them.
It's not
so that's
sustainable.
part of it's not sustainable. It's part of the trust building and working with reality and not the ideal per se.
Right. I think it's really important for people to feel 2 things. 1 is confident and 2 is successful. If you have, and you need both, right? And if you take away either of those things, you're not going to have a good outcome. I'm going to read this really quick because I just Googled it and I wanted it because I think this is just so fascinating. And then we'll get on to some next topic here. It says, I Googled, said, according to Dr. Rhonda Patrick, citing a large scale study of over 70,000 adults, 1 minute of vigorous activity provides a health benefit equivalent to 53 to 94 minutes of light activity like casual strolling. And this is for reducing all-cause mortality. And it says standard guidelines used to use do use a 1 to 2 ratio, which was that 1 minute of vigorous equals 2 minutes of moderate. And so according to this large scale study, it's basically what she's saying is that it's a 10x difference, not 2x. So it's then you can extrapolate that on a lot of other metrics in cardiovascular mortality, risk for type 2 diabetes. We won't go into all that, but anyways, I just was wanting to clarify that is the real numbers there.
Thanks for that. And the reason for that is that vigorous physical activity is more potent, apparently 10 times more potent at improving your VO2 max or your peak MET level.
Yeah.
And it's that VO2 max, which, and to use English here, that's how much oxygen your body is able to consume at any level of exercise. Well, your VO2. And VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen your body is able to consume. After that point, then aerobic respiration does not increase anymore, and so then you start building up lactic acid. You get winded, and you have to dial it back or stop. And it's that number, the peak MET or the VO2 max, that's associated with such a dramatic improvement in decreasing all-cause mortality, and that's the one that's comparing it to quitting smoking.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if you think about like other things like, the mitochondria, the energy producers in our muscles, probably if you were to go and say, if you were looked at somebody who had a high VO2 max or a high grip strength, all these measures that we use to show indicators of longevity, you probably under the hood would also find that you've got, the mitochondria are very healthy and very, there's a lot of them, right? And doing their thing. Because we know that, like one of the things I know is that as we age, we lose some of that capacity. Like fast twitch muscle fibers, for instance, are one of the first to go. Well, if you're somebody who's working on some of these factors, you're going to be improving your odds of being able to still run when you're after age 50 or 60, right? Because a lot of people can't.
That's right.
We lose those simple things we used to do when we were young as we age. So let's talk about that grip strength and the importance, I guess, in preventing things like sarcopenia. Let's talk about muscles, because I think that frailty, we have a lot of the population that follow me, folks that are worried about osteopenia, osteoporosis, sarcopenia. Let's just talk about how that whole thing can be alleviated through exercise, I guess, a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you're exactly right that as we age, we expect to lose lean muscle mass. And included along with the lean muscle mass is everything that the organ of the muscle helps us with producing anti-inflammatory molecules, producing something called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor, which helps with the neuroplasticity of our brain. The lower that is, the higher odds of Alzheimer's. Muscle itself it sucks up the glucose in our body, so it helps with glucose regulation. as we age, we lose about 3 to 8% of our lean muscle mass per decade. And that compounds in a way, that that's not ideal. So that by the time we're 75 or 80, we've lost 30 to 40% of our muscle mass as compared to our younger selves. And so if we're not working on that and we're not genetically well endowed, some people are genetically better off than others. That could mean the difference between by the time you're 75, not being able to join your family for the Thanksgiving walk or pick up your grandkids when it's their birthday, and and they're climbing all over you. On the contrary, if we are training it our whole lives, and I think of I'm a big backpacker, and on the Appalachian Trail, everyone gets a trail name, and there was this guy, Nimble Will Nomad, who hiked the entire Appalachian Trail at age 83, 2,200 miles of,
Whoa.
and anyone who's done that backpacking, I mean, it's climbing 3,000 foot climbs just to descend 3,000 feet and just to do it again. And so people who are continuing to keep up their conditioning, no one, I mean, maybe AI changes this, I don't know. But right now, I'm not banking on anyone not dying, and no one's promising that, right? I mean, we're all going to die one day, and accepting that and not putting that, brushing that to the side, I think is really important for many reasons that we can talk about. And so all of this work, it's not to ignore the fact that we are mortal beings. And at the same time, simultaneously, it's also a reality that people who are keeping up their conditioning, whether it's through keeping up their lean muscle mass or all of the aerobic stuff that we're talking about, it can mean a very real difference between the last decade of your life being very functional or very not functional. And so that's something to keep in mind. Again, as a physician, I'm working with the patient in front of me, and I'm going to talk about some of this. But if it's something that they're not interested in hearing, then there's plenty of other things that we can talk about as well. But on the subject of longevity, if you're ignoring these aspects of physical training, whether it's resistance training to keep up the lean muscle mass or the aerobic, then you're simultaneously ignoring the number one factor that's actually under our control to help enable, a longevity that you're going to want to be in, right? Because an interesting point is that modern medicine actually does a very good job of keeping people alive for a long time, right? And we all know people who don't do any of this, and they live to be 85 or 90. But for too many of those people, the last 5, 10, 20 years of their life can be fairly uncomfortable and fairly non-functional. By taking these proactive measures, it can mean the difference between needing an aid to get to the bathroom or not, right? Between being able to transport yourself from your house. I mean, I'm talking about, I was going to say the extreme ages, but not necessarily. For too many people, there is such a stark difference. I sometimes say the decade between 70 and 80, and especially 75 and 85, can be as profound a difference as the decade between ages 10 and 20, which is obviously when we go through puberty and we go from being a kid to being an adult.
Right.
And taking these proactive measures, oftentimes, that's where it has such the most dramatic effect, is that between 75 and 85, it could be the difference that you're in a nursing facility for 5 years or you're hiking the Appalachian Trail at 83.
Yeah, isn't that
And
incredible?
Again, it's incredible. It's incredible.
If you think about that's just so. I mean, and these are, you could even say that they're like two people that don't have any current diseases, but one who has one who's been maybe completely sedentary, not activated in any of these. You talked about BDNF and all these other factors that can help preserve muscle. And somebody else who has been active, one person can just slow down to the point where they need a walker, or they can barely walk anymore without getting out of breath. And the only thing that they did wrong was they really didn't do much much activity, much physical activity their whole life. And so I guess I've seen these curves. Maybe you're also familiar with these. And well, we can take VO2 max since we're still on that topic. Kind of referenced that earlier, or strength could be another one. Is that, hey, everybody's declining. You just said yourself 3 to 8% per decade decline. Okay, so everybody's declining. The question is what do you want your curve to look like?
That's right.
What's the drop off that you want to experience? You could say that the goal is to not think that you're going to have any drop off. It's just that you want to have more of a gradual drop off, as opposed to a roller coaster that slams you down, and that is what happens. So I guess my thing is that at age 75, if I'm as above average as I can be for myself, I guess is the only way to say that. If my curve is a little higher up, as high as I can get it, then my drop off, I'll be better off at 85 than if I hadn't done anything at all, I guess is how I'm thinking of it.
You got it. Yeah. What one phrase that comes to mind, which I first heard from arguably the father of integrative medicine, Andrew Weil, who when I was in medical school and early on was one of my heroes. He uses this term called compression morbidity, which is the idea that we're all going to have, unless we have the good fortune, whether you believe that or not, to die in our sleep at a nice old age of a heart attack, right? We're 90 and we just go off peacefully. But the statistics show that greater than 50% of Americans will spend a year or more in a nursing home. And many of us will have a period of our life that we have so-called comorbid conditions, right? And that could be anything from, fill in the blank, osteoarthritis, an autoimmune condition, cardiovascular disease, a heart attack that didn't kill us, but we have some heart failure. These things happen, right? If you don't believe it, just look at your dogs, right? We have our dogs. We all know our dogs in the last few years of their life, they're not what they were when they were 4 or 5. We're no different. But we are different in that we can take these proactive measures. And this idea of compression morbidity is taking that comorbid period of our life and squelching it down to as short a period as possible, so that ideally we're functional. Yeah, we might not be doing the things that we were doing when we were 25, but we can still make it to the card game with our friends, or take a walk, or take a gentle bike ride. And then we have a relatively short period of our life that things are going wrong, and then we eventually pass. And emphasizing, we're not trying to put off this idea that we're going to die. But I was thinking of this phrase the other day. Can we be proactive so that we can increase the odds? And that's all this is. There's no promises with any of this, right? But we can statistically say that we can increase the odds, that we can live better, that we can age better, and that we can die better through taking proactive measures. Live better by increasing the chance that just my quality of life today is going to be better because of the actions I've taken. That I'm going to be more likely, not guaranteed, but more likely to be in a positive mind state. More likely to be able to get a solid night's sleep. Not guaranteed, but more likely. So then tomorrow I feel more refreshed. Age better, such that as the years pass, I have a less steep decline. It's not that there's not going to be a decline, but that is less steep. And that the dying better piece, that being proactive and interesting. Yeah, I remember reading a book by I can't remember. Was it, I think, Pema Chodron, that was called How We Live is How We Die. And it's the idea that, if we're putting off all the shit that we need to deal with, right? And the I'm sorry's that I need to say, the realities of our life, then that's going to hit us like a truck at some point. And for many people, that means dying very poorly, right? Because we're sitting with the heaviness of this. I mean, even on just functional level, just the estate planning and figuring out, you wouldn't believe how many people who passed didn't give their partner all of their logins to their, bank accounts and their insurance accounts and all this stuff. And then their family members are left with this nightmare to comb through. And then here in Asheville, is to give a shout out to Emberlight, CCLD, which is the Center for Conscious Living and Dying. That's really taking such a proactive step in this dying piece and helping people die with dignity and making that passage on to whatever's next so much, just to whatever degree we can, easier. And so there's a whole world, along that lines that thankfully is coming to fruition.
And that would be a whole separate. I should have them on a podcast. That's like a whole topic that deserves
for sure.
lot of attention. It's not talked
Agreed.
about. It should be more. Great. Yeah. Well, we could probably, there's so much that we've covered and could cover. I think the main message that my takeaway is that, living, if I have longevity in mind, what you were just saying is, and I agree, is that I actually can live a better life today. It's not that those two things are separate. I actually thought about this guy, Brian Johnson. A lot of people have heard of him in the longevity community. He's the guy that spends countless amounts of money on testing things on himself, and he's aging like a baby, I guess. His rate of aging is that of a 2-year-old. But somebody asked him, he said, you live such a strict lifestyle and that must be really, like, I would never want to do that. And there's this pushback against him. And I look at that a little bit curious because I've seen him, I've heard him talk about his protocols, the things that he does. And he says, you know what, actually, I'm as happy as I've ever been. I used to be depressed. I was depressed for 10 years. I'm now not depressed at all. I sleep 8 hours a day and feel very good when I wake up. So it's not really, I don't know why we have this idea that if we do these things that feel like they're, I don't know, strict, that somehow those make us unhappy. And sometimes what the body really does love actually is routines and protocols. I mean, going to sleep is such a thing, right? The body loves it if you go to bed at the same time every night. Mm-hmm. So I don't find this to be a problem to say that I'd like to work out at the same time every day. I should be eating at a certain time and I should sleep at a certain time. The sun rises and sets at a certain time. My gosh, who am I to think I shouldn't be similar?
Yeah. Oh man, I cannot agree more that, and that's the live better piece, right? If all we're thinking is about the future at the expense of the now, then that's not an endeavor that I would find worthwhile.
Yeah.
And
totally.
Ultimately, again, nothing is promised, right? And our last day could be today. We have no idea what tomorrow will bring. And I remember the show on HBO called 6 Feet Under. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
It's a great show. But at the very beginning of each show, the storyline was, for your listeners, was it followed this family that ran a funeral home. And it was just kind of their story. But at the very beginning of each show, it showed a person who would die. And then the rest of the show was them, kind of caretaking for this person. But the way that it would show people die in the first 3 minutes of the show was the most random of events, right? From a bee sting at a picnic to, stepping off a ledge to hiking and a mountain lion attacks, or all kinds of things. This stuff happens, and when you work in an ER, it's front and center for you. And so all that. But what's so cool is that everything we're talking about, and we just scratched the surface. We mainly have spoken about the physical activity piece. But when we're eating better and when we are sleeping better and when we're taking proactive measures to reduce our stress, and there's things we can do that are tried and true to do this. Just a walk in the woods, or sitting meditation, or spending time with friends, dancing, some unique things, right? Like riding a horse, or painting, or you see my guitar in the background here. Playing music.
Yeah.
So reducing stress in a meaningful way. All of these things, yes, they help with the longevity piece, but they help with also the daily happiness piece. And there's a whole world out there, a whole specialty of positive psychology, which is the psychology of what are endeavors we can take just to increase our daily happiness. And it's a lot of these same measures. It's keeping the body moving and just all of this stuff. And so, yeah, all that said, I think that working for the future at the expense of the now is not worth it. But thankfully, the very same interventions help us increase the chance that today is going to be a good day.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for your contribution to the medical profession and what you're doing, and starting up, at a time when this wasn't really a model that many were. You're really a frontiersman in this way, you and your partner, and I really think that Asheville as a community has such amazing healers and practitioners and doctors, and I absolutely feel that integrative family medicine of Asheville is part of that, and that you guys have a legacy, especially here in Asheville, that I'm particularly proud of. I just think it's I really enjoy doing these podcast episodes because I love sharing people doing amazing things. And I'm really excited to continue to share this with the audience. So I guess my question to you is, if I'm a listener, how do I get involved? Is there a way I can, if I'm listening and saying, hey, I'd like to go check out the clinic, what's the best way for someone to find out more, to come potentially even maybe be a patient? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the best way is to visit our website at integrativeasheville.org. And our phone number, you can call us. It's on there. It's 828-575-9600. But definitely the website is super informative. And we've got a location down in Arden as well as in the River Arts District on Depot Street. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your kind words. It's, it makes it, again, I know I said it earlier, but it makes it all worth it hearing words of appreciation. And it's, we feel incredibly privileged to play the role that we're playing. So thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And okay. So last question. I always do a rapid fire question at the end. What's you mentioned a couple books. You're obviously some form of an avid book reader, or have been. What would be the number one book that's influenced how you see health, wellness, life? Can be anything. What's the most? What's your favorite book in that way?
That's a good question. God, I have so many. I would say, early on, again, any of the Andrew Weil books. Some of them might be a bit outdated now. For daily quality of life, I'm a big believer in the power of a mindfulness meditation practice, and so from John Kabat-Zinn to Thich Nhat Hanh and Jack Kornfield, any of those authors, you can pick up any book and it'll blow your mind and help illuminate a perspective on reality that can be life-shifting. And I'm a big fan of Michael Pollan, and just, again, the Occam's razor perspective of the simplicity of eat food, mostly plants, not too much. I would add on to that that he doesn't have. Make sure you get enough protein. um, but yeah, his books have also been mind-blowing for me, from The Omnivore's Dilemma to Food Rules to How to Change Your Mind. I mean, he's been instrumental in helping spread the knowledge of the benefits that psychedelics are bringing to folks, from the studies from Hopkins and UCLA and NYU and London. And then I'm actually reading his current book, which is called A World Appears, A Journey into Consciousness. So I think that's the subtitle, but A World Appears, and it's super interesting. That's what comes to top of mind.
Well, that's plenty. I think if any one of those authors themselves have so much to offer. So I know Thich Nhat Hanh is influenced me quite a bit. So did Dr. Weil back in the day. Like, he was one of the first names I remember even reading about many years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. Well, and then the contemplative part of things, I think that is a whole separate topic of wellness unto itself. That is probably one of the most important and most needed, especially right now. We live in such a chaotic, crazy time. So appreciate
I concur.
Yeah. Well, I will let you go. I know you probably have a busy day. Thanks for your time. Do appreciate it. And we'll get some things into the show notes, and hopefully you have a blessed day.
All right. Sounds great. And thank you for the work that you're doing for our Asheville community. I love that you started this Be Well podcast, and good luck as it expands.
That was Dr. Chad Krisel, and I'll be honest, this conversation hit me somewhere important. The idea that we've organized primary care in this country has quietly been stealing years from people's lives. And that someone here in Asheville is actually doing something real about it, that matters. And the reminder that none of us get out of here alive, so we'd better start treating our time like the non-renewable resource it is, that one I'm carrying with me. If you want to learn more about Dr. Krisel's practice, head to integrativeasheville.org. You can also follow the clinic on Instagram at integrative_Asheville and on Facebook at facebook.com/integrativeasheville. Most importantly, please share this with somebody who is overdue for a doctor that actually listens. Until next time, be well, Asheville. Thank you for listening. You can catch the next episode while watching the sunset from the Grove Park Inn, wandering through Pack Square, taking a quiet morning walk through Biltmore Estate. You can check out more Asheville wellness news and events and join our newsletter at bewellasheville.com. And as always, thank you for being the best part of our wellness community. And until next time, be well.